Jessica Hurst for the Western Gazette, and I'm here with USC presidential candidate Pat Whelan to discuss his campaign and his platform. So Pat, why did you decide you wanted to run for president?
That's a tough question, but for me, it's really, like, you think about running for USC president, it's kind of just a lot of work that goes into it. It's very tiring physically. You miss a lot of class, things like this. So it's, in my mind, I always thought of it as a threshold. You had to want to do enough in order to make it sort of worth it in a lot of ways. I don't know if that sounds bad or whatnot, but that's sort of the case. So being at Western for 4 years, being involved with USC for a while, you start to see that the administration and the USC have a common problem where they have a, like, we know best sort of attitude. Decisions are made for you, and then later sometimes you're consulted through a survey and maybe they're slightly adjusted, but either way the decisions are being driven by administrators and driven by USC executives as opposed to from students. So I'd like to see students at the beginning of the decision-making process, and that was sort of the real reason that made me want to run. And so I see students sort of being a second thought sometimes. Like, I know it's not intentional, but that's the way it comes across, especially with our volunteers, especially with some of the I guess disenfranchised groups on campus as well. There are a lot of barriers, financial and cultural barriers, that we need to sort of address. So these are some of the things that made me want to run, and I think that this is a chance to take the next step and to bring the USC to a place that we can do that.
Okay, and why did you choose your running mates?
Why did I choose my running mates? They kind of chose me. That's an interesting question. We all chatted. So like I said, I wanted a grassroots kind of student government. I wanted a bottom up, realistically. That's what I think is what's needed at the USC. We need to bring that student advocacy back to the students. So I found like-minded people. They found me. Mir is the change camp coordinator. He's the guy on collecting student information, student concerns, and student ideas. And I had a few ideas with the idea forum, and he had some ideas on how we could bring change camp to a new level. And that's how we started talking, and we went to sit together, and he picked me in a lot of ways. And same with Sam. Sam and I, we were volunteering together in the O-Week program, and did a lot. We're both on council together, did a lot of sort of visionary chats, and eventually I think that she picked me as well too. So it was a very, a little corny. Lining up the stars. It's a little cheesy, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. How's the dynamic been so far between the three of you?
It's been very good. What I like about it is that we're all very much on the same page about vision. The specifics of what we debate about. And I think that's why you see a lot of detail in our platform and a lot of specifics, is because we spend a lot of time in front of the whiteboard debating what the best way to solve these problems were. So the solutions you see are well vetted between the three of us, and I think it makes for a really good dynamic, is that decisions are very well thought out between us. Because while we agree in the principles and what we want to see as an ideal world, sometimes we disagree on how to get there. And so I think that's sort of our dynamic, and it's working really well so far.
Yeah, great. So moving towards your platform, which point, I guess, are you most passionate about?
Passionate about?
Yeah.
The point I'm most proud of, I'll say that.
Okay, yeah.
The point I'm most proud of, I think, is the idea forum, and it sounds like such a simple thing. It's already up and running, which is kind of the best part, I guess, is that you'll know I'll implement it because it's already implemented it. But the idea being is that it's an open discussion forum. So what I don't like to see is the USC and Western sending out surveys, having these sort of poorly attended town halls, where they frame the question, right? So the person who wants to hear the answers is asking the questions and framing that discussion. Instead, I'd like to see the people who are answering those questions frame the discussion. Mm-hmm. So, we've got a lot of different ideas on there, from food options on campus to LTC routes. Someone wants bigger toilet seats on campus. So a wide variety of stuff. The USC, probably isn't looking into big toilet seats. So maybe that's something we could talk about. I'm just kidding, but you know what I mean.
It brings in new ideas, I guess.
It brings in new ideas, and I think that it's already taken off. It's been live for 36 hours. We've gotten, there's already several dozen ideas on there with a couple hundred users. So we're looking to keep expanding that through the campaign to get a discussion going. It's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say is your least feasible platform point?
Least feasible. I would say the student donation fee. That's sort of one, we want to reform how that works. So right now you are automatically charged a donation fee as an ancillary fee. It's opt-outable, but you have to go and find the office and your faculty, and then they give you a check, and then you go cash it, but most students don't do that. So you end up paying somewhere between $50 and $200, depending on which faculty you're in, as a donation. So the idea behind that fee was that would go back to student programming. So student councils could use it, people could apply for grants. What we've seen in the past, due to budget constraints on the university side, is they've started to use that money for sort of core services. So in social science, for instance, a part of that money goes to supplement the budget of the academic counseling office. That's a pretty core essential service part of tuition. So that's the problem with it, is you can't just flick the switch and turn off the student donation fee, because we're gonna be hit with service levels decreasing.
Yeah.
So I'd say it's not feasible in the short term, but I think it's a conversation we need to start having, and we need to start having it now. It has started, in all fairness, but we need to ramp it up and make it a USC priority and not just a faculty by faculty, depending on who's in power kind of priority.
Okay. And so who do you think is your biggest competition? Which slate? And I guess why?
It's going to be a very close race. It's going to be a very close race for a number of reasons. I think everyone is in the other years, I think you see a lot of diversity in the candidates. I think the difference is you see a lot of diversity in the visions, what they want to do. In terms of resumes, you could just if you strike out all three of the names at the top, you would.
It's very similar. Very
similar, right? In fact, I've worked with Vivek and Ashley very closely for the past 3 years. They're friends. We're pretty close. So, what is kind of neat is this election, I think, is going to be about vision and about specifics, as opposed to in past where it's sort of these overarching, do we want an experienced candidate, or do we want a new and fresh ideas, or do we want an outsider's, that's always been a big part of the discussion, where now we sort of have 3 candidates that come from similar backgrounds that are now trying to outlay their plan for the USC, and that's where the discussion is going to go. So it's tough to say after 2 days. I think Vivek is a great campaigner. He was Adam's campaign manager last year. We know he's a smart guy. Ashley's incredibly hardworking. It'll be interesting to see what the two of them have up their sleeves for the next couple of weeks.
For sure. So if you were an animal, which animal would you want to be? It's a hard-hitting question.
It's a hard-hitting question. I don't know. I'm trying to think which is funny. I was going to say cat, because then I'd have a lot of YouTube videos, but I'm going to go...
YouTube fame.
Yeah, YouTube sensation. I think I'm going to go with kangaroo.
Okay. Why?
I keep a lot of things in my pocket.
Great. Okay, cool. So if you could choose 2 celebrity running mates, any celebrities, who would they be?
So let me think here. 2 celebrities, any celebrities? I think I'd take Stephen Colbert. I'm a big fan of Stephen Colbert.
Okay.
I think that he'd bring the funny in a big way to debates. And I'd probably take... That's a tough one. It's a very tough one.
You and Steven?
Sorry?
Just you and Steven?
Well, Steven and I'd be good. Maybe Ryan Reynolds or something.
Have a face.
Yeah, he could be the front guy in the posters, that kind of thing.
Gotcha. The other candidates' platforms are fairly broad, while yours reads more like a policy paper in a way. Do you think this will intimidate some students?
That's a good point. I think that it's something that we're going to try and address by putting up blog posts quite regularly to try and sort of disseminate these big specific policies. One thing that we did, and this is, I've got my roommates have been incredibly hardworking on this campaign. They're both in comp sci, and they're doing amazing stuff. So one thing we tried to do was set up the policy in a way that you can delve as deep as you want, but you don't necessarily need to go too far.
Okay.
So that was one way we tried to solve that. I think that what I wanted to do was give something very specific. I wanted students to know what they were getting before they get elected, because I think that that's an important aspect. You're now electing 3 people, so it's a broader scope of what you should be looking for as a voter, not necessarily what you should be looking for, what I'd be looking for as a voter. So we wanted to make sure that you understood exactly what our goals were, but not only what our goals were, but how we intended to get there. and that's why I think that the other, like you said, the other platforms are a little bit more broad. They've sort of said what some of their goals are, without sort of backing it up with specifics.